In your work or partnership with the ADRC, you'll come into contact with many people living with Alzheimer's or dementia, as well as their caregivers and loved ones. The information, assistance, and support you provide them has the power to improve their quality of life in many ways, and that is an awesome responsibility. We appreciate the investment you're making by taking this training. In this module, we'll look at the different causes of dementia, signs and symptoms of dementia, the benefits of getting an early diagnosis, and your role in assisting consumers with dementia and their families who contact the ADRC for information and referral services. You may be surprised to learn that dementia is not actually a disease. It's a set of symptoms that can result from a number of diseases or conditions. Dementia is a broad term that refers to a group of symptoms including memory loss, confusion, and disorientation, and sometimes changes in mood or personality. Here are some of the things dementia can cause problems with. Memory, in other words, what a person remembers. Reasoning and judgment, or how a person makes decisions. Thinking, how a person learns, understands, and processes information. The ability to do self-care, in other words, whether a person remembers when and how to perform tasks such as brushing teeth, bathing, and using the restroom. Language. People with dementia often experience word-finding difficulties, as well as challenges comprehending language. Spatial orientation. This is the way people perceive and interpret what they see, and this can become skewed when a person has dementia. Problem solving. How a person navigates through new or challenging situations. And finally, mood or personality. How a person reacts and interacts with other people and with the person's general frame of mind. Dementia can be either irreversible, meaning it cannot be cured, or reversible, meaning it can be reversed or cured. Most irreversible types of dementia are progressive, meaning that the symptoms get worse over time. Later in this module, we'll discuss some reversible or curable causes for confusion or forgetfulness. But first, let's focus on the progressive or irreversible dementias because these are more prevalent in older adults. It may be helpful to think of dementia as an umbrella that covers many diseases or conditions. Each part of the umbrella represents a different disease or condition. In this graphic, Alzheimer's disease is shown as the tip of the umbrella because it is the most common cause of irreversible dementia. Let's take a few minutes to discuss some of the more common causes of irreversible or progressive dementias. Alzheimer's disease, sometimes called late onset Alzheimer's, is the most common cause of dementia symptoms. It occurs most often in people aged 65 and over, and it's the most common cause of dementia in older adults. When a person has Alzheimer's disease, plaques and tangles made of a specific protein damage and destroy brain cells. This destruction results in the brain shrinking in size and weight and the gradual loss of brain function, including memory, thinking, and judgment. Healthy adult brains weigh about 3 pounds, whereas the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease may weigh 30 to 50% less. Alzheimer's occurs most commonly in people over age 65. The risk gradually increases with the likelihood of developing Alzheimer's doubling every 5 years after age 65. So those over age 85 are at the highest risk for the disease. Technically, doctors can only be certain of an Alzheimer's diagnosis by examining the brain tissue of a person after death. However, by running tests that exclude other causes of dementia or confusion, some doctors can generally diagnose Alzheimer's disease with up to 90% accuracy. In order to make a diagnosis of probable Alzheimer's disease, doctors usually do the following. They ask questions about the person's general health, past medical problems, and the ability to carry out daily activities. They give the person tests of memory, problem-solving, attention, counting, language, and visuospatial abilities. They perform medical tests, such as blood tests, tests of urine or spinal fluid. They examine brain scans, and they rule out other causes of dementia. Once a person is diagnosed with probable Alzheimer's disease, that person may live for up to 20 years after the onset or beginning of symptoms, but the average is about 8 years. Here again is the picture that shows the healthy brain on the left, compared to the brain of a person with advanced Alzheimer's on the right. If you're interested in how the brain is affected by Alzheimer's, the Alzheimer's Association has an interactive brain tour on its website that is a helpful tool. Most people who get Alzheimer's disease are diagnosed after age 65. However, some younger people also get the disease. When the onset of Alzheimer's occurs before age 65, usually in a person's 50s, but less frequently in their 30s or 40s, it is considered early onset or young onset Alzheimer's, not to be confused with early stage Alzheimer's, which is the beginning of the disease process for a person over 65. We'll use the term young onset for the remainder of this training. Here are some facts about young onset Alzheimer's. Young onset Alzheimer's often runs in families. It's linked to 3 different genes. It progresses more rapidly than late onset Alzheimer's found in those over 65. Although young onset Alzheimer's is a form of Alzheimer's, the circumstances of those affected by this young onset are usually very different than those affected by late onset. People who have young onset Alzheimer's are often in their 50s or younger, so they frequently still have children at home. They or their spouses or partners may have elderly parents who also need care. They may be more physically healthy and strong. They and their families face additional financial hardships because of having to leave jobs before retirement age. They also have challenges being eligible for services that have age restrictions and are focused on older adults. Thus, people may find themselves overwhelmed with caring for elderly parents, a loved one with young onset Alzheimer's, and their children all at the same time. Placing a person with young onset Alzheimer's disease can be especially difficult because many long-term care communities with Alzheimer's programs are geared toward older adults. It's important that you recognize the unique challenges that accompany young onset Alzheimer's disease when you speak with families or other caregivers of those living with the disease. You may have also heard the term mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, being used along with or in addition to dementia. Mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, is an intermediate stage between the expected cognitive decline of normal aging and the more serious decline of dementia. It can involve problems with memory, language, thinking, and judgment that are greater than normal age-related changes. Like a person in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease, a person with mild cognitive impairment may be aware that his or her memory or mental function has slipped, but the person's family and close friends may also notice a change. Generally, these changes aren't severe enough to interfere with the person's day-to-day life and usual activities. Research suggests that mild cognitive impairment may increase a person's risk of later progressing to dementia caused by Alzheimer's disease or other neurological conditions. However, some people with mild cognitive impairment never get worse or remain stable for years before getting worse. A few actually even get better. Here's a brief video that explains a bit more about mild cognitive impairment.